roughly 75 or more, actually, I've seen more, as high as 79% of Americans right now are in disagreement with the Biden administration on this border issue. That's a pretty dismal number. They're talking about maybe later on this summer, Joe Biden basically saying, I'm not going to run again, and them bringing Michelle Obama in. Apparently, from what I hear, Barack Obama has already been speaking to the donors, to the money people, about the potential of his wife running. It may not be true, but it's what I'm hearing. Hey guys, welcome to the Chad Prather Show. We are hanging out. You know, if you're seeing me from this angle, it's probably because somebody's on the other side of on the desk from me. And yeah, we do have a guest today. We'll get to that in a minute. But first, I want to remind you guys, please drop me an email, complain, ask me questions, tell me the things that you are thinking. Chad@thechadprathershow.com. That's a long web address, thechadprathershow.com. And yes, you have to put the in the beginning of it, thechadprathershow.com. You can go to that website and leave me your email address where we can stay in touch with one another. And I'm not going to send you nude pics or anything like that, I promise. I'm just going to send you, every Friday we like to send out, some questions of the week that I'm answering. Just stay incommunicado. I think that's a valuable thing to do these days. And but I'd love to hear from you. And I would also love for you to go where podcasts are offered and leave a rating and a review. The southern border of Texas is in trouble. We know that. The Constitution is being used as toilet paper. I didn't know toilet paper was still scarce. I thought we were past the pandemic. But the Biden administration is absolutely violating the Constitution. They have ceded themselves from the states. They are not doing, the 13 states got together and said, let's form a union. They did it because they wanted to have common trade and defense. So you take those two things away, you take away the state's reason for remaining a part of the union. Well, it would seem that Texas has a very valid argument right now when they say that the federal government, particularly this Biden administration, and now the Supreme Court, has ceded itself away from protecting the states. We're under invasion. I want to talk about that a little bit, as well as some other things with a guy that I think knows a lot about a lot of things. He's one of my good friends, John Hullihan. What's up, buddy?
Great to be here, Chad. Thank you.
I hadn't seen you in a minute. Hey, I think you and I both had PTSD a little bit. I hate to use that term, but I think in relation to this, I ran for office, you were running for office, and we both were shell-shocked.
It was an experience. I've said before, it's kind of like getting your arm caught in a meat grinder.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah.
How many people ask you? You were running, of course, for Congress. The position got filled by Morgan Luttrell. I voted for you. I supported you. I endorsed you. I thought you were the man for the job. Nothing against Morgan. I consider Morgan a friend. But for me, you were the guy for the job. And former JAG officer. I mean, you were basically Ron DeSantis here in Texas, right?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that, Chad. I just want to serve my country, continue to serve my country. And I thought I had a unique skill set for Congress. Turns out it was kind of a blessing in disguise because I've been able to do some other things using my background, experience, and legal training, and working now with Citizens Defending Freedom. So we've done a lot of great things that I wouldn't have been able to do if I were a member of Congress.
So you're an attorney, and there's a lot of folks out there. I know a lot of attorneys who have kind of chosen activism in the way that they're handling their law business. We're looking at what's going on with Trump and all of these witch hunts. And this is a side note. We hadn't mentioned this at all in our conversation. They keep throwing around the term lawfare. How dangerous of a situation are we in if this becomes the rule of the day?
Well, it's what I do as we're a watchdog nonprofit organization, Citizens Defending Freedom, is I call it counter lawfare. Mm-hmm. That's really what we do, is counter lawfare. So lawfare is essentially abusing the court system, finding seams and gaps in policy. And for example, with the 2020 election, state legislators, they, for the most part, have the authority for election law, right? Those authorities don't reside within the Secretary of State or executive branch. They pass all these emergency decrees. Now you have drop-off ballot boxes. You have waiving requirements that only the state legislatures can waive. That was lawfare. They used the legal system to really get what they wanted, achieve their goals outside of the legal norms. So we counter that. I think it's important at the policy level, at the ground level, particularly with school boards or, Title IX, things like that. They use the regulatory agencies to pass these regulations that affect everyday Americans. So it's important to recognize that and counter it at the local level.
I got a couple of rapid fire questions. Just your initial thoughts when you hear them. Okay. Is Donald Trump going to go to prison?
No.
Don't think so.
I don't think so.
What's his way out of that? Or is there even a case there? A legitimate case that can't be thrown out in appeals?
There's multiple cases. I think he has a good defense on the classified documents case. I don't think that as original classification authority, he's the president. He determines what is classified and what is not. And there's there is precedent for former presidents to have documents that were declassified, and they use them for their presidential libraries or whatnot. So I haven't seen anything that would make me think that he's going to go to prison for that.
Well, it's so weird when they say, well, he was talking to so-and-so about nuclear submarines and stuff like this. It's like, then it comes out, it's like, no, he wasn't. Like, that wasn't. So the media has this stuff so twisted. The narrative is so weird. And again, it just comes down to a witch hunt that they're just going to get this guy no matter what. I mean, they're just going to keep hounding until the guy loses his mind. But Trump's tough. I mean, this guy just keeps showing up.
Well, they don't call him Teflon Don for nothing. So, just bounces off. He seems.
I'd be a nervous wreck, John.
He seems to get energy or strength from the more he's attacked, the stronger he gets. So, it takes a special person.
Dude, I'm not wired like that.
It would grind most people down, I think.
That's one of the reasons I think Trump is the dude, because this guy's like, throw it at him and she's just going to keep walking through it.
Yeah. So, it is interesting, though, that his base kind of consolidated after all these indictments and civil lawsuits. So, if anything, it consolidated his base and let him, kind of march into the nomination. So.
Yeah, he did. I think that once we get through a couple more of these states, Nikki Haley's out. I think she hangs in there as long as she can in the hopes that Donald Trump gets some kind of a conviction, but it's not going to happen.
It's also looking less likely that she would be considered for vice president as well. As they're throwing jabs at each other. Yeah. Who knows?
Someone said to me on the phone the other day, they said, and again, I have to always put the disclaimer in, when this thing comes out, this may be all old news, so you'll see how well John and I can predict the future here. But someone said to me last week on the phone, they said, our friend is a lobbyist. He's 90% sure Donald Trump's going to pick JFK Jr. as his running mate. And I said, no chance in hell that happens. And then just that week later, they came out where there was speculation about that, and Trump said no. So you got to pick on who you think he would pick as a presidential running mate.
Oh wow, I have no idea.
I don't either. See, I kept saying Kristi Noem, and then Kristi Noem said, I have 3 electoral votes in South Dakota. There's no reason to pick me.
Yeah.
Sarah Gonzalez said Lee Zeldin. I don't know. I think on a political side, we were questioning, would it be Nikki Haley? And I thought, well, that'd be suicide, because she's absolutely nuts.
Well, I can tell you who it won't be. It probably won't be Mike Pence. And it probably won't be Mitt Romney. So we can eliminate some people.
It won't be Adam Kinzinger. It won't be Meghan McCain or whatever her name is. It won't be any of those people. That's a good point. It's going to be interesting to see.
You never know. There could be like a wild card if Texas really is in play, like they're saying. Maybe there could be a Texas pick. Maybe a Ted Cruz. Maybe he he's running for Senate in the same cycle. Senate. So.
Kari Lake's running for Senate in Arizona. So I thought maybe Kari Lake, which I think Kari Lake is a solid politician. She's pretty slick. I've told her personally, I'm like, you're pretty polished for a politician who's never really won anything.
Yeah, she really is. She's very well spoken, articulate, and she knows the issues, which is very important.
And she doesn't mess around. I've tried to get her to break a little bit. Like when she'd come to the Blaze Studios, I would try to mess with her a little bit to get her to break, see if I could get through that exterior. Nah, she's business all the time.
No, she's polished.
Business all the time. She'll send me a text message. I shouldn't tell that. She'll see a video that I do or something, and she goes, "You really made me laugh, and I needed to laugh today." And she'll send me that, which is encouraging. I'm like, I'd love to see you laugh. I don't know that I have, Kari. I don't know that I have. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. It's scary. I think. Are you of the mindset as you watch these things, and we're just catching up as friends at this point? Do you kind of agree with the mindset that as we get into 24, it's going to get worse before it gets any better, or is it even going to get any better?
I think it's going to get worse. Yeah. I really do. I think if Trump does get the nomination, or he will, it's just going to be hit after hit.
Yeah.
I mean, the media is going to go from being friendly, kind of, Donald Trump is ahead in the polls, he's leading all Republicans, to just constant drumbeat.
Yeah.
The corporate media obviously provide some cover.
Well, I mean, Snoop Dogg came out the other day and said he's got nothing but love for Donald Trump. So if he got Snoop Dogg's endorsement, that
may be all you need.
Maybe all you need. I see where they are really pushing Taylor Swift to push for Joe Biden. She's come out with an endorsement. I read something yesterday that said, this has been a week or so ago as you're watching this, that said that she could actually sway 20% of the vote with her endorsement of Joe Biden. What insane world are we living in if that's a reality?
It's a very scary world. I think that's what happens when you have large portions of the populace are not engaged, and they're not educating themselves. They don't understand the real issues.
Yeah.
I mean, just like basic civil discourse and separation of powers and, how our government works. It's pretty scary how far off folks have fallen. And hey, that's what happens when you teach propaganda in schools instead of actual civics or government.
Yeah.
So
I love it when a talking mouthpiece head like mouthpiece Joy Reid, as she said on the news the other day, I've read in the history books. No, you haven't. I don't think Joy Reid's ever read a history book.
No, somebody just gave her a piece of paper to say that.
Don't lecture me on that stuff. All right. The Texas southern border. Let's get into that a little bit. You're a Texan. I am a Texan. I'm a Texan by conception. I'm not a Texan by birth. My parents did a dirty thing in a horrible place in 1972 called Dallas. Okay, so here I am. I'm a pro-life guy. I'm at least seminally Texan. I have Texas DNA. Wasn't born here. Got here as fast as I could. Got back here, I should say. Texas is purplish, would you say? Is a pretty fair. I mean, our cities are all blue at this point. Our rural areas tend to remain a little red. What's your assessment of Texas right now in terms of its conservative, or I should say its political leanings?
Well, I would certainly say all the urban areas, the large metroplexes, Dallas, Houston, Austin, even San Antonio, they are all blue, solid blue, from the county commissioners to the sheriffs. But a large port, and that's about, I would say 40% of the population. Don't quote me on that number. It's about that. The remaining population, I think, is very conservative. They're from, their belief systems, the Second Amendment, the parents' right to, choose the upbringing, education of their children, all of those kind of conservative things, limited government, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, do your own work, rugged individualism, all the things that folks say are kind of off the, they're not kosher anymore. But all those things, those are conservative values that majority of Texans have. So yes, we're in trouble as those population shifts, and maybe folks from other states come in with a different set of values and maybe vote more Democrat than Republican.
Hey guys, for 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. And when I say the only one, trust me, they are the only one. And Patriot Mobile has been a great supporter of this show, and I'm proud to continue partnering with them. Patriot Mobile offers dependable nationwide coverage, and they give you access to all three major networks, which means you're going to get the same dependable coverage that you're accustomed to without funding leftist causes. See, when you switch to Patriot Mobile, you're sending a message. You're saying that you support free speech, religious liberty, the sanctity of life, the Second Amendment, our first responder, and our military heroes. And they have a 100% US-based customer service team, which is going to make switching so easy. You can keep your number, keep your phone. Call them up. They'll help you upgrade with a brand new phone. Whatever you need, their team will help you find the best plan for your needs. You go to patriotmobile.com/Chad. You can call them on the phone if you want to, 972-PATRIOT. Talk to them. And you get free activation when you use promo code CHAD. I spell it Chad. That's right. Join me. Make the switch today. Go to patriotmobile.com/Chad. That's patriotmobile.com/Chad. Use promo code Chad. Call them up, 972-PATRIOT. Look at what's going on at the border. And we have a Republican governor, Greg Abbott. Hasn't always been my favorite person in that he is a great campaigner, a great fundraiser, good spokesperson, but doesn't always follow up with what he has said he's going to do. It would seem that we're winning this war on the optics level based off of what Greg Abbott's rhetoric and actions have been with this. Is he finally doing something, or I'm scared to say this, is this another political ploy on the part of the Texas government? And I know that's not a popular opinion right now, because right now they're basically putting him up for sainthood. I mean, this is a complete redemption of Greg Abbott compared to the Greg Abbott of, say, 2 years ago.
I think we're at a tipping point. I mean, we truly are. And I think...
Yep. Got a dog barking. You'll always hear the dogs barking around.
I think Greg Abbott has been very methodical, right? Like, he was the attorney general. Yeah. He was on the Texas Supreme Court. So he's a lawyer. I mean, not always a great thing. But he's been almost building a case. And when you think about what's going on at the southern border, he's built this case, Operation Lone Star. He's sent a series of letters to President Biden. He's really tried to show, hey, your border policies are not working. This is an invasion. And it's just kind of built upon that. Well, now it's at a tipping point. And then you see the Supreme Court has said, oh, you know what, DHS, you can cut the barbed wire, you can cut the razor wire. And I think it was at a tipping point where, no, this really is an invasion. This really is imminent threat to our citizens, our lives, our liberty, and our property. And something has to change. Yeah. So there is I've been saying this for 2 years, wrote an op-ed on this. This is not about immigration enforcement. That's where we lose. When we put this in the context of this is immigration enforcement, the Supreme Court, the federal government has primacy over all those matters. It's in the Constitution. Congress has primacy over those matters. But when it comes to state security and protecting the lives and liberty of your state citizens, the Constitution allows us to protect our sovereignty. The guarantee clause, Article 4, Section 4, the federal government is supposed to guarantee that we will be free from invasion, guarantee our citizen safety. When they fail to do that, clearly the state has to step up. And he's invoked constitutional authority, which the letter that he provided, I thought was, it was excellent. It was well done. He cited Madison. So I think something has changed. It feels like something has changed. From my sources on the border, the National Guard, they're starting to fan out. They're not just an Eagle Pass, right? It's not just this optics thing. They're actually kind of setting up some checkpoints and fanning out further out than just kind of that centralized bridge location, Eagle Pass. So I hope things have changed. Certainly around the nation, people are frustrated. Immigration is the number one issue. Immigration. It's not about immigration. I'm even falling into their trap. It's about protecting the lives, liberty, and property of our citizens. Look at the fentanyl trade and the cartels, transnational criminal organizations. They own the border. They're pouring into our nation through human trafficking, sex trafficking, drug trafficking, all of these things, all the lines of effort from the transnational criminal organizations are the same lines of effort that this mass migration is coming through. So I don't know. To answer your question, it feels like something has changed.
Feels like something's changed. This is a different Greg Abbott to me. And trust me, I am somebody who's looked at him with a lot of scrutiny over the years. I went from really admiring the guy to really starting to see this polished politician that was more into keeping his seat of power than he was actually doing anything, simply because the rhetoric was always the same and it always happened around campaign season for that to happen. Now I'm sort of like, okay, I don't know what button got pushed, but it's like, this is a different guy. And I hope it lasts.
I hope so too. I really hope the states can reestablish some sovereignty. Yeah. I mean, as you know, like you mentioned earlier, when the states ratified the Constitution and agreed to this constitutional republic, they gave away a little bit of their sovereignty. Yeah. With the guarantee that they would provide a common defense. They gave the federal government certain enumerated authorities, but the framers were smart. They gave the states some ability to respond to imminent threats, invasions. Yeah. Still in the Constitution, that's what Greg Abbott invoked.
Yeah. Nobody wants to go back and look at states' rights when it was contested in the way that it was during the Civil War. Like, nobody wants to do that because, it's racist to go back and talk about the Civil War. How dare we? You can't talk about anything that the South did without being a racist. Why did Robert E. Lee choose to be the general of the armies of the South? Well, he couldn't imagine himself fighting against Virginians, because in those days, your allegiance to the state was more important than it was to the centralized federal government. Like, you were allegiant to your state. As in a Virginian, he's like, I can't fight against other Virginians. And take that for what it is. It was Abraham Lincoln, who, in my opinion, is not the greatest guy in history, as a lot of people try to make him out to be. He's the one who led to a centralized form of government that actually one day a guy by the name of Adolf Hitler started trying to quote and reference Abraham Lincoln for a more centralized government in what he was doing in Germany. So we lost this idea that the states have their rights to take care of their own business, and they have the authority to defend themselves if the federal government, which, as you said, is something they traded off. If you're not doing that job, then what the hell are we doing here?
Yeah, I mean, you raise good points. I think if you go back to Woodrow Wilson, the growth of the administrative state and this panel of experts, really the growth of the bureaucracy in this fourth branch of government is what really has. And then look at the Department of Education, the block grants. You can, state of Texas, you take this CARES Act money with all this social emotional learning requirements.
Yeah.
You have to hire a diversity, equity, inclusion officer in your district if you take this money. So people need to realize, like, when we take this money from the federal government, there's strings attached.
Yeah.
I mean, think about highway funds. There was a point in this country where states regulated the speeds on their own highways and things like that.
Yeah.
If you take the highway funds, you're beholden to the federal government. So until the states really turn down some of the money with the strings attached, we're never going to get to a place where we're really governing certain things that are not enumerated to the federal government and they're reserved to the states or the people.
Yeah.
So that's where we need to go. And as far as the border goes, I think the states have an inherent right to defend themselves when they declare an invasion or there's an imminent threat of harm.
You brought up somebody that I love to hate, Woodrow Wilson.
Oh, he was the worst.
Probably the worst president. I think the worst president in the history of the United States. I took a picture of a thing I wanted to reference. And, one of the things that Wilson did was he saw the presidency as being more like the prime minister of Britain. And he expanded that executive power in a big way. Mm-hmm. And so now you have, somebody like Barack Obama talking about a phone and a pen, and you can do whatever you want to do. And it's interesting to me that on day one, January 20th, 2021, when Joe Biden took office, one of his executive orders was this proclamation on the termination of emergency with respect to the southern border of the United States and redirection of funds diverted to border wall construction. So now when they want to complain and say it's the Republicans who are in Congress who are standing in the way of this legislation, I thought there was no crisis. I mean, there's an executive order saying there's no emergency here.
That's the most ironic thing I hear. I got asked this question the other day. How do you respond to Kirby, the press secretary, saying if President Biden just had more authority, if they would come up with this bipartisan legislation?
Laughable.
Hey, President Biden, you have all the authority you need. It's called the Constitution of the United States of America in Article 2. You're commander in chief. Yeah. Not to mention the fact that under executive orders, the first thing you did on your first day in office was reversed. I think it was 36 executive orders.
36.
And many of those, the Remain in Mexico policy, all of these things, that was done through the executive branch.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I would say to that is you can use your authority under Article 2 of the Constitution. Title 10 has authorities. Current law on the books, Title 10, he can call up active duty forces to repel an invasion. Mm-hmm. Again, but when you're thinking about it, when the progressives are thinking about it or framing the discussion, I should say, in the context of immigration, we don't need the military. It's an immigration matter. No, this is an invasion matter. You have, the cartels control the ports of entry. You have transnational criminal organizations are pouring fentanyl into the United States, killing hundreds of thousands of Americans. This is an invasion. This is an imminent threat to public safety. You have to think about it in those terms. So President Biden has all the authority he needs. This is just it's just a way to obfuscate the real issue. It's a way to backdoor amnesty. I don't know what it is. I don't know what NGO is getting. I haven't read the bill. I don't know what NGO is going to get rewarded with millions of dollars of contracts. I don't know. But I would submit to you that he has all the authority he needs right now.
When you take, basically, if you put all the polls together, roughly 75 or more, actually, I've seen more, as high as 79% of Americans right now are in disagreement with the Biden administration on this border issue. That's a pretty dismal number when you already got a guy who's, already he's 39% in terms of his favorability ratings. That's worse than Jimmy Carter. I mean, he's in horrible shape. We'll get into that in a minute. I got another question I want to ask you about that whole nonsense. But when the people of Iowa during the caucuses, they're saying their number one concern is border security. This is Iowa. I mean, you can't be any more insulated from the border in the United States than Iowa. This is a concern on American minds. And this presidency says, there's no crisis. There's no crisis. And suddenly they're saying there's a crisis and the Republicans are standing in the way. The hypocrisy of that is astounding to me, that anybody with any kind of sentient mind would look at that and say, yeah, it makes sense.
Well, again, I think you reflect on American education system. You reflect on the loss of critical thinking skills. You reflect on corporate media will always provide cover for you.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you listen to, younger progressives that have gone through the school system, and thank God that I went, I grew up in Montgomery County and I went to a pretty good school system, right. Public school, but it was great. But they're just parroting these leftist talking points. Yeah. Just the lack of critical thought is appalling to me. So it doesn't matter. I mean, in a lot of ways, these folks will just go vote and they're not thinking about their best interests. They're not thinking about their nation's best interests. It feels good to vote for, a Democrat because, then they're not a racist or misogynist or they're not toxic or whatever it is that they've literally been brainwashed to think not for themselves, not to think about individual liberty or, think critically, but to this group think mentality it's going to destroy our country.
Yeah. And when you got a piece of legislation up there that Joe Biden looks at and says, he tweeted it out or whoever tweets for him and said, this is the right way. This is the way to do this. Well, I don't want to allow 5,000 illegals through. That's what this allows for, this policy, 5,000 a day. That's over 1.8 million illegals allowed into the country, granted amnesty to come through every year. That's not the way, in my opinion.
I mean, look, there are legitimate claims of asylum out there. Okay, go when you pass the first country of origin, past the country you fled, go to the U.S. Embassy, complete the, do your interview for asylum, just like under the Trump administration. So that is a way to do it, not just breaking down the rule of law. I mean, there's a reason we have ports of entry. There's a reason there's Title VIII. They've abused the parole program. They've abused the amnesty program. And I think most Americans, no matter what political spectrum you're on, believe, I hope it's still the case, in basic fairness and the rule of law. I mean, most Americans, I would hope, still feel that way. So when you see a complete lack of regard for the rule of law, complete breakdown of order, it's just not a system that we want to be part of. So I think that's why you see the poll numbers are so high. It's just the basic breakdown of law and order.
Well, it looks like a storm is coming in. And the funny thing about storms is they don't care if you're ready for them or not. I want you to be ready when the storm hits. Sometimes when it hits, it's too late. You can't prepare then. There's warning signs, the thunder, the clouds, the lightning in the sky. They let you know that it's time to expect a storm. You also know that the time to prepare for the storm is always right now. Now, I want to help you prepare for the coming storm. I want you to go to my special website, preparewithchad.com. When you're there, you're going to automatically save $200 on an essential 3-month emergency food kit from My Patriot Supply. Over the years, My Patriot Supply has helped millions of American families prepare for emergencies. Your family should be next. Now, sealed inside the ultra-durable packaging is their delicious meals that are going to last up to 25 years in storage and provide over 2,000 calories a day. You're able to eat right whenever things go wrong. And these 3-month emergency food kits from My Patriot Supply are going to help you do that. You need one for every member of your family. $200 in savings. You can get enough for each member. They all deserve protection, right? Go to preparewithchad.com. Order by 3 p.m. any given day, and you will get free shipping on the same day. The website, preparewithchad.com. Prepare for the storm. Article 4, Section 4 has been repeated over and over again. We've said it ad nauseum about, we have the right to a Republican form of government, which basically means you have the right to have your state officials that you elected and put in place over your state. And then the federal government's job is to protect you from an attack, from invasion. And if 50,000 armed troops from Russia were sent over the Bering Straits into Alaska, I would think that Alaskans would be a little bit nervous. Their rear ends would pucker a little bit if the federal government says, you're on your own.
I think this gets back to the understanding of warfare. Okay. So, I was a JAG. I worked in a lot of...
I'm listening. Let's go.
I worked in a lot of, I worked with SEAL teams and task force, and the nature of warfare is changing. I mean, with the exception of Ukraine and Russia, obviously conventional warfare as we know it is dead. There's this gray zone conflict that's always going to occur now. It's below the threshold of armed conflict. It's using all, there's dime theory, diplomacy, intelligence, your military, your economic, all of these things are used below the threshold of armed conflict to achieve state and non-state actor goals. Right. So when I look at the border, I don't think of immigration. I think this is lawfare. This is warfare. This is unconventional warfare that's happening. You look at China. I mean, they're using their fishing fleets across. They're in South America. They're off the coast of these South American countries that are fishing out everything from the coastal waterways. So they're within the special economic zones of these countries. So what happens to those fishermen whose father was a fisherman, father's father was a fisherman? There's no more fish. So what do they do now? They have to move drugs for the cartels. They have to do some other job that is no longer available to them. They have to do some criminal activity. Maybe they're forced into it. They have to be coyotes, whatever it is. So all these things are related. And then smuggle drugs, drug warfare. If you look at the Unrestricted Warfare was a book that was put out in 1999 by some PLA officers of the People's Liberation Army of Communist China. They said, we're going to use all facets of warfare to defeat the United States in the future. One of them is drug warfare. Okay. 90% of the precursors that create the fentanyl, synthetic opioids, are made in China. This comes from a bipartisan report on the opioid crisis that came out in 2020 that Congress looked at. 90% of those opioids manufactured in China, shipped to the cartels in northern Mexico, and humped across our border. Yeah. Killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. Okay. People need to think, is this intentional? Even if it's not, that's warfare. I mean, it's below the threshold of armed conflict. It's not uniformed soldiers, but it's killing Americans. And there's a reason for it. What is that reason? I don't know. Take out a generation of future soldiers for us to be watching the southern border and not paying attention to other things, to create fissures in our society, propaganda, whatever it is. Like, it achieves the goals of other countries if we're fighting and our eyes on something else and not what's happening in, I don't know, Taiwan, the Taiwan Strait, what's not happening in Ukraine. So all these things could be related. They may not be, but I view it as unconventional warfare below the threshold of armed conflict.
So beyond conspiracy theories, which I think aren't really theories too much anymore, because we kind of fill the vacuum with these imaginations and thoughts and questions, and they tend to come true when there's that vacuum that the media is not telling us. Do you think Joe Biden's bought out by China? I mean, that's such a simple question that everybody just jumps right to and says, yeah, of course he is. But what do you think? I mean, what does Joe even... I guess historically, I don't know if Joe knows he's on the planet right now, but
I don't know about President Biden, but I would tell you that it certainly appears the business relationships that Hunter Biden had. If I were an intelligence officer and I wanted to compromise somebody in power, I would certainly compromise their family. because then that person in a position of power would later do whatever it takes to protect them. So that's, just your standard kind of intelligence officer. What they would do is they would compromise family members and things like that. So there's certainly risk of that. And I think that's what they're looking at now.
I kind of sit there and I think, what if there's some group out there that compromised Hunter, and now Joe knows if he reneges on the deal, Hunter's dead. Like they'll send the guys after him, No,
they would probably
the
just
triads show up or something.
They would just data dump like some really bad
stuff.
Information. Yeah, they're just holding it.
Yeah.
So that's what they would do. They would compromise them, whether through financial transactions or videos or whatever it is.
Seems like that's the trend of, I say the day, I think it's been going on for a long time. The tapes supposedly that exist that the FBI confiscated from Jeffrey Epstein, all these things that apparently you have all this dirt on all these people and you never want anything to come out. That seems to be the unconventional warfare, to refer back to the book you're talking about. Everybody's using it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you remember from The Godfather, I think it was part 2, it was Godfather part 1, the Nevada senator.
Yeah.
He went in and what did I do? And so. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if those things still happen, but it's certainly...
He killed a hooker.
I don't know what the rating is of this show.
Yeah. No, you can do it.
So The Godfather, right?
The hooker was dead, whether he killed her or not. Yeah, but it looked that way.
They drugged him and he woke up and they said, hey, what did you do? Or he said, what did I do? He said, oh, you just went crazy and you killed her. Well, they killed her. And then he said, don't worry, Senator, we'll take care of it. And then he always granted their gaming license. He was owned. And, I think that's why... It's just important to always. Funny story. I got to be careful what I say here.
You're the one with legal limitations,
right?
For us, you can say anything.
Back in my past life, I worked with a guy, and I'll be careful what I say here. But he was a good guy. He was funny. He's a military officer. But his girlfriend was like, couldn't believe. I mean, she was 10, and. People were like, man, you must have a joke book in your pocket. I mean, what did you, how'd you get this?
You got something in your pants.
Well, so they did a background check and he had to disclose some of his, come to find out she was a foreign national. Come to find out her father was a high ranking officer in the PLA. Come to find out that she had some foreign connections and, come to find out that he was no longer going to be part of our unit.
Wow.
So, yeah, he didn't disclose those foreign contacts. So, the whole point of that story is he wasn't that good looking. She was after him to compromise him. And,
there's a lot of compromised people out there. Which makes me wonder why a guy like Congressman Eric Swalwell didn't catch more flack for his interactions with Fing Fing,
Yeah, who knows? I mean, it's... what's scary, I think a lot of members of Congress are starting to understand this, that you just got to be careful who you associate with. And, when those great business opportunities come through, then maybe they're not that great of a business opportunity. You should really be careful what you do. And
I told CJ, I said, after taking her to the airport the other day, I said, I get these messages from total strangers on the, Twitter or Facebook. They're like, what's your suggestion of what we should do down on the southern border as citizens? What should we go down there and do? And I'm like, I'm not answering that. I'm not responding to that, first of all, but I don't know what kind of Fed bait's being floated out there to put me on some list, or when something pops off and they get not a George Floyd, but a Jorge Floyd down there, they could say, yeah, all these people are complicit. We got
I agree. That's actually a smart move. And look, I know folks want to go out and do something. They want to, but nobody, and I know you don't advocate for any kind of violence. I think people just need to let, the law enforcement that's down there kind of handle it now and don't need to get in their way. And hopefully, like we said, what's happening with Governor Abbott will continue, and we'll continue to stand for state sovereignty. More states will come in, sign a compact, and we can actually shine some light on this and stop it.
And I think we're winning, at least on the optics level, the way it's looking. The persuasion, we're winning in that regard. If that many people are saying this is a major issue, we're being sold out by the administration and the federal government that's there to protect us, and they're not doing it, I think we let this thing play out and maybe we watch the pendulum swing,
I agree. And it's changed the conversation, which is encouraging to me. People are starting to realize, oh, wait, states have these certain sovereignty. They they have this ability to declare this invasion. That's encouraging to me that folks are coming more educated on this topic and realizing that the states have more authority than you think they have.
I wish people would educate themselves on things like the primary elections and know that those exist. I mean, that'd be fun if people would take a civics class again.
Oh my goodness.
You know, all of this, I'll just summarize it with this. All of this could be avoided at the southern border if all of us were vaccinated. So don't forget to get vaccinated, okay? You should be on your 9th booster by now. It would solve all the problems, John.
I know for the health crisis that occurs in this country, you think one of the reasons to have a border, if you look back at history, is to stop infectious disease. Like, it makes no sense.
I was reading. I wonder if I can pull it real quick. I was reading. I like to look at Time magazine, which is a horrible, horrible thing to be reading. But I get entertained by some of the nonsense. Time.com, why borders as we know them won't survive the century to come. And you know their whole deal. I'll summarize the entire article as to why borders have existed for millennia and they've worked, but now they're not going to. Climate change, because it's about to be where some places will just be uninhabitable. And we'll have to just stop with borders because people will have to cross.
Wasn't that supposed to happen like in the mid-70s? We were supposed to have an ice age.
Over and over and over again, it was supposed to happen.
Look, I mean, the breakdown of the progressives and the Marxists want the breakdown of the nation state, because what does that break down? That breaks down individual liberty.
Yeah.
You know, it goes to the groupthink. It goes to they can control you. It goes to the Woodrow Wilson kind of school of thought. We know better than you. We are panels of experts.
Yeah.
So you can't govern yourself. You're too ignorant. We have to have these bureaucrats that know better than you.
But it's democratic socialism, John. I mean, we're going to vote for those people to have that kind of power over us. They're still going to have the power over us to do all these things. And all the red tape, all the bureaucracy. They're not going to innovate or create anything. Take away all the private sector, tax the hell out of us, and we're just peasants. We're like France.
Yeah.
We become like France. We're farmers, and our biggest weapon is to go spray manure on the government buildings. And
it's kind of scary when you look at it, but I don't think it would ever come to that in Texas. I really don't.
I think that there's people out there who'd rather die than to try to live in that reality.
Yeah, and if you think about Americans, I mean, truly, generations and generations of Americans that came here wanted to take that risk. They wanted to come to a place and make their own mark. So it's in our DNA, really is, to just be bold and to really shove off tyranny. And with a subset of that is within Texas. I mean, if you think about Texans, they left whatever state they were in to make their mark in Texas before the Republic. So
what's the movie series, the Mockingjay deal where they volunteer as tribute? Hunger Games. You would think that enough of this younger generation would have watched the Hunger Games and seen that basically we're setting up that type of government system where, all of the provinces or the districts or whatever they had, and everybody's subjugated to the elites and the cabal that rules over them. But they don't. They actually want to be a part of that. If you ask this younger generation in a large way, it's weird.
It's scary.
Scary.
It's not how I raised my son.
No.
All three of my kids, they're alphas. So I've already told them, look, you could be a lion or a sheep, and you better be a lion. Yeah. Because you got a tough road ahead, and you need to be a leader.
Yeah. So and what I was thinking about this morning is they're talking about maybe later on this summer, potentially as late as August, Joe Biden basically saying, I'm not going to run again, and them bringing Michelle Obama in. Apparently, from what I hear, Barack Obama has already been speaking to the donors, to the money people, about is the potential of his wife running. It may not be true, but it's what I'm hearing. I don't think Michelle Obama brings a solution for anything we're dealing with to the table either in that regard. It's just another puppet that keeps Obama doing Obama type things.
That's worst case scenario. Yeah. I mean, she'd be tough to beat, frankly.
She's tough to beat. They'd have to keep her away from a microphone, just like they do Joe Biden, because every time she gets to talking, it's the vitriol and hate for America that comes out of her. So,
yeah, that would be a worst case scenario. Hopefully, enough folks would. I think keeping Joe Biden in there is going to be problematic as things continue to get worse. So I don't have any inside information. I would suspect they would encourage him to bow out.
Yeah.
After the Democratic convention, because then they can just replace him.
He looks like a life insurance commercial. Or he looks like an old folks home commercial. He really does. Did you see that? The little parody commercial they did for the old folks home is the White House senior living.
Oh, I saw that.
Did you see that thing? Kind of made its rounds.
I mean, it truly is almost elder abuse.
I in a sense, I feel sorry for the humanity that's there. But then again, I want to tell the guy to go burn in hell. I mean, 50 years in Washington, D.C. to be what he is,
Yeah, just, we got to, I'm worried about the next few years are crucial. So we'll see what happens. That's why it's important to get involved at your county level. And, you said something earlier about folks in Iowa, number one issue, border, because every county is a border county now.
Right.
I mean, everybody has been affected by either fentanyl or some other problem with crime or whatever it is. I mean, they've been affected. So, or like I said, everybody wants that basic fairness and rule of law. When Americans see the rule of law breaking down, that's a problem.
Yeah. I want to tell you though about our sponsor, United Patriot Coin. If you follow me on social media at all, United Patriot Coin's been a good friend of mine for a long, long time. They are who I trust for gold and silver. A lot of times people in the hard economic times are trying to figure out, this, economic uncertainty that we're living in with all these weird things that are going on in our world. What do you do? Well, I always advise people, you need to have some gold and silver. And I know there are people out there who say, well, you can't eat gold and silver. Trust me, you need some gold and silver on hand. You need some bullion, you need some coins, you need some stuff you can barter with. There's various things you can use to do that with, but some gold and silver would be a good thing to have on hand. So the folks that I trust, UnitedPatriotCoin.com, head over there. You can call them on the phone as well. Talk to Trey on the phone. Tell him Chad sent you. And he'll walk you through all kind of investment opportunities that are out there. So check them out. When you travel around, you get around folks, you talk to them in the community or around the state. You do. How many people come up to you and say, "Hey, you going to run again? What's your plan? You going to run again?" Do you hear that a lot?
A lot.
I hear it a lot too. And how do you respond? Do you have a patented response?
I'm in a way, I'm blessed that I didn't win that race because I'm happy to do what I'm doing now, and I get to see my kids.
Yeah,
I'm very happy to see my children every day. So I'm happy what I'm doing now with CDF because we're getting a lot of results. We've held some district attorneys accountable. We've dealt with a lot of school board issues, parental rights issues. So I don't know if I'd have that kind of success in Congress. I could be I look at what's happening in Congress and there's just not a lot getting done, and that would frustrate me. So I'm happy to see results. So maybe in the future, I would look at running for office, maybe a state office. I don't know about going to Congress. Yeah. Until things change a little bit and the status quo is broken up, I would probably look to stay right here in Texas. Yeah,
because you get to the point where people would say, and I agree with you, the people would say to me, they're like, well, how are you going to make any changes if you don't get in there? And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't quite work that way. It's you just get another cog in the wheel. It's really what's existing right now kind of has to get broken down. And I think one of the most important things you could do is stay active at the state level.
I agree.
And break it down here. Because self-government begins right here with you, and then it expands out from there, radiates from there, just going right to the Beltway. DC, that's not necessarily the best solution.
100% agree. So many decisions that are made at your local commissioner's court, school board, that affects your family. It affects your pocketbook. It affects your children's education.
Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll run for school board. That'd piss a lot of people off.
Oh, you should. That'd be great.
That would piss That'd piss some folks off.
No, you'd be good at that. You'd be good at that. No, but it's, especially when you talk about the books.
Apparently you can get some good pornography.
Well, yeah. People don't realize, the school board has ultimate authority over the curriculum in the state of Texas. So if there's a book that's pervasively vulgar or is of little educational value, there is Supreme Court precedent that the school board can make that decision to remove that book.
Wow.
It's on the school board. As long as it's viewpoint neutral and they can remove the book. So the school boards get really mad when I tell people that, because then it puts it on them. Oh, you're not going to remove this book that's pervasively vulgar? Why? well, it's a First Amendment violation. No, there's some Supreme Court case law that says it's not, as long as you, as a school board member, and it reflects the community values, find it pervasively vulgar. It's not a First Amendment violation.
Yeah.
So I think those decisions can be made at the local level, and they really affect us. So that's like a member of Congress. I think I would, or any other office. I don't know how effective I would be at this current point.
What do people do? I mean, where do they get active? I mean, what do they? Because I think a lot of things that's going on right now, the general overarching mindset is people feel helpless. They feel like the elections are rigged. They feel like their elections aren't fair. They feel like they can't trust the voting system. They feel like their politicians are corrupt. From the legal level of what you're doing as an activist and pursuing the things that you are, what hope do people have? What can they do? Because I think they do want to at least feel like they're doing something more than complaining online. There's some sort of kinetic action.
I think whatever they can do, whether it's go to a school board meeting once a month and just be aware of what's going on, be present, do more than just complain online. I mean,
yeah,
there has to be what's the so what? Well, I'm going to get more involved. I'm going to ask a question at my school board meeting. I'm going to, find out where a certain elected official stands on an issue, and then I'm going to hold them accountable to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they need to get involved. And, like with Citizens Defending Freedom or any other grassroots organization, just being present. It really matters. Just being present and doing what you can do.
Yeah, it's amazing what showing up will do. It was funny, on primary election day, you and I spent a lot of hours together there at the same polling place late in the afternoon. That was, we got sunburned sitting out there.
That was awesome.
It was a good day. I mean, it was fun. And then I say it was a good day. It was bittersweet in a lot of ways. Gosh, I get the heebie-jeebies. I kind of break out in a sweat when I think about that whole process. I'm thankful I did it in spite of the crazy stuff that happened in my life through all of that stuff that I wish had not happened. But how about you? I mean, you have gratitude towards the process?
It really opened my eyes how things really work.
That's it. Yep.
Which scared me in a lot of ways. And that's probably one of the reasons I'm not interested in running anytime soon.
Right.
Just, kind of seeing politics as a business and, the money involved and, it's really difficult to overcome the money. I mean, you can knock on 1,000.
So true.
You can knock on 1,000,000 doors.
Yeah.
And I did. I knocked on doors I took a leave after my job. I almost went bankrupt.
Yeah.
Just doing everything I could to try and win that race. And just overcoming the money. It was really hard. And if you're not the guy and you're not saying the right things,
yeah, it's true.
You're not getting the money.
People hate when I tell them that. I'm like, don't have enough money. They're like, you could do it. You just have okay, yeah, sure. I mean, get out there. Anybody will tell you it's name recognition. How much money can you spend? I mean, John Hullihan spent $25 million to come in third place. That's a lot of money. I think Alan West spent like $14 million to come in second. He fractionally beat out Don. Abbott, I don't know what Abbott actually, I don't know if Abbott really even campaigned, but he had $75 million. He had a black hole of cash is what he had. There was no limit.
Just a name ID too.
To the money that was available to him. And he just, waltzed in there.
Yeah.
60 or 65%, 67% of the vote.
That's why the campaign folks will tell you, oh, you were outspent 2-1 or 3-1. So if you raised 10 million,
yeah,
they have to raise 30 or 40 million.
Yeah.
Because that 4-to-1 ratio, more TV ads, more billboards, more radio ads, it seeps into the human psyche of name recognition.
Yeah.
And then people, there's very informed folks in the primary, and then there's folks that vote because they're doing their civic duty, and they're like, man, that Abbott name sounds familiar. What Abbott?
Right.
It's in the human psyche.
Well, they had a Rick Perry, who's not the former governor Rick Perry of Texas. They had a Rick Perry on the ballot from Springtown, Texas, I think it was, who came in 5th place. And again, I barely edged him out for 4th place on that deal. And people love to insult me. They're like, you almost got beat by a fake Rick Perry. I was like, listen, I lost my mind. I'm not worried about what fake Rick Perry did through the whole thing. It's like, there was no money. I mean, what do you want to do? How do you want to compete with $100 million? What
people need to realize is the fake Rick Perry, people thought they were voting for Rick.
They thought they were voting for Rick Perry.
That, if anything, is just sad.
Yeah.
The folks voting don't realize they're voting for somebody that is not the Rick Perry.
Not the real guy.
So, yeah, it's hard to overcome. And I don't know. Money in politics.
So that's why I tell people, I say, I'm not talking about fraudulent elections, but when I tell you the election is rigged, it's sort of rigged. They know who the candidate's going to be. I guarantee you in Austin, Texas, the Republican folks that are the powers that be, Greg Abbott's camp, they know who, when he decides he doesn't want to be governor anymore, they know who they want his successor to be. And that's where they'll pour everything right behind that person. And it's kind of rigged. I mean, I don't know another word for it.
Well, I mean, politicians jump from one office to the next. And I don't think the founders ever envisioned that, career politicians. I mean, you were supposed to do your duty and go back and
go home. So it's become a business. It's become a career. It's not something I'm interested in doing as a career. Me either. It sucks, dude. I don't want to do that. I'd rather run my mouth for a living, hang out, do something stupid every now and then.
Yeah. No, I'd rather be effective, unless you're
right.
Unless you're, have a majority in Congress and you're on these, some important committee and you work your way up through however way you work your way up, then you can actually make a difference, right?
I've had some pretty powerful people in the state approach me about running maybe for a state office, and Sarah Gonzalez has had the same thing. She and I've had conversations together. I was like, I think I can do more good where I am, doing what I'm doing, bringing awareness and educating and getting involved. I think I can do more good just right here, right now.
Well, I think you're going to do good wherever you go. I mean, I've always been impressed with your courage. And
tell me more, John.
Yeah, it's true. I'm not just.
Tell me more.
No, Chad. I mean, I've always been impressed with your courage, and you say the things that other people are unwilling to say, and that takes courage and really being candid. I think it's important to be candid with folks, and you are, and that's important. And you've shown courage. And if you could, I'd support you if you ran for a state office or any office.
Thank you. I run where angels fear to tread. That's for sure. I have foot and mouth disease. It fits right in there, dude. I say some really crazy, stupid things. Sometimes I look back and I go, what did you say? But, I think you have to have, somebody said, man, you just like to stir the shit. You like to stir the pot. And I was like, I don't like it. I just think it's necessary. I think you have to stir it up. The status quo is not great.
Yeah.
So let's stir that thing up a little bit.
I mean, speak plain. I mean, if more people just spoke plain to each other and said what they really meant, there wouldn't be these microaggressions or whatever else.
Microaggressions.
Whatever else the new kind of trendy words that they use to basically call you an a-hole.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. I don't know, man. I worry, but I have optimism. I think the pendulum, historically, it swings back. And I think this thing is pushed so far out there. I mean, when you got a guy like, in the entertainment side of things, guys like Bill Maher and Joe Rogan start making more sense than, because I think Joe Rogan came out on a podcast the other day and said, man, I've never voted Republican in my life, but these guys have gone off the reservation. And this blue bubble, which is California, he said, I had to get the hell out of there. And I mean, I find myself like, I don't know if this is some kind of psyop that's going on and I'm just not smart enough to see it, but I'm like, who the hell is this guy's John Fetterman in Pennsylvania? Suddenly I'm agreeing with John Fetterman.
I know.
The guy has an aneurysm or a brain tumor or something and they fixed his brain and he comes back a Republican.
I know. It's so bizarre to see. I mean, we're in strange times, but
weird.
I mean, I wish politicians would just become leaders and just vote.
Yeah.
What is the reason for the most part? Most of them got into this because they wanted to do some good.
That's a good point.
They just need to get back to their roots and think, why did I do this? It's not about the power. It's not about the prestige. It's about representing my community and standing up for my nation. But, whenever I get down kind of about the state of things, I think, look, we're Americans and we're Texans and not on our watch. I mean, we should not get discouraged. We should always know that this is the greatest country in the history of the world. And, we're just going to get through it.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll be better for it on the back end after a little bit of a bristle scrub.
From the stuff you're looking at on the day-to-day basis on the front lines, are there any other hotbed issues people need to be aware of? I mean, what's
the big one? Title IX really is one thing I've really worked on. This Title IX thing, this transgender sports issue.
Yeah.
Really, it's the panel of experts, right? It's the I call it the deep state. It's really the administrative state. It's just the bureaucrats. That's my code for deep state. But that's all it is is these regulatory agencies making these rules that impact us so greatly. Mm-hmm. Congress never intended them to redefine what biological sex is. And that's what they've done. Mm-hmm. They've taken the Education Amendments of 1972, which, based upon equal opportunity for women in sports and other opportunity for women in other activities. And they've redefined gender. And this came through the regulatory agencies. This came through a notice of interpretation from the Department of Justice and the Department of Education. This came from, publishing a rule on regulations.gov and said, hey, we're going to give schools, by the way, if you take money from the Department of Education, you're now required, or at least explain to us why you're preventing folks that identify as the opposite gender, why they can't be on a sports team. So that's going to destroy every school district in America. I'm working on a few things to hopefully, can't really talk about it yet, but working on some things under the Congressional Review Act with some folks to get that perhaps looked at and perhaps get that thing reversed. But really just making folks aware of what's happening with this abuse of the administrative state. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you, John. You're my friend, and I'm thankful for you. And likewise, I mean, if we're trading compliments, I mean, I was impressed with you immediately. And it didn't take many conversations before I said, I like this guy. He talks right. He knows what he's talking about. And it's not just the knowledge of it; it's the passion of the heart to go out there and do it. And I know you're a busy guy, so I appreciate you taking time to come over here and chat with me for a little bit. And it's crazy, dude, the world we're living in. I mean, we're sitting here talking about Title IX. I'm like, how much worse can this crap get? It can get a lot worse.
Oh, it can get a lot worse.
They want it to get a lot worse, So,
it can get a lot worse because it'll basically solidify a lot of these rules that they've made through the bureaucracy will get solidified. Yeah. The more sovereignty they take away from the states, the more they chip away at individual liberty, it's only going to get worse. Yeah. And it's been very incremental. But it's starting to have an effect, and it's starting to become obvious.
Yeah. John Hullihan, Hull, Hullihan. Have I always said that right or wrong?
You said it right.
Hullihan?
Yeah.
It's Hull, not HOU.
Right, correct. Yeah. They spelled it wrong off the boat, apparently.
Yeah.
That's what I was told.
Welcome to America.
Yeah.
I would make sense. I come from Prather, which I think was the PRAT. So it kept the long A, Prather, but people still say Prather, and I still answer to it. So it's Prather, but I answer to whatever. So I didn't know. I was like, I wonder if I've always said that right or wrong.
No, you're right on the money. And, when I was all through school, they always called me Hot Lips, from the show MASH. And then for a while I was active duty military, that name survived until they, became a softer, kinder military, and somebody decided you can't say Hot Lips anymore. So that went away.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Well, the show MASH.
I do know the show MASH, yeah.
So that's where that came from.
Judge, Advocate General, John Hullihan. And I've listened, what you're doing, man. I want to encourage people to pray for John. He's on the front lines doing this stuff. Give him wisdom, from God and providence. Because, this is a crazy thing. And we don't need Texas crumbling. We don't at all. So
no,
hold their feet to the fire, man. Is there a way that people can directly support you on a physical way or
just go to citizensdefendingfreedom.com. I'm the general counsel for that grassroots organization. That's the best way to do it, and kind of look at our mission. We have toolkits up, and we're in Florida, Texas, Georgia, and now we have a presence in Michigan as well.
People talk about hating Lawfare. I'm sure that if you had an opportunity to go to that website and get involved with what they're doing in the anti-Lawfare movement, I like that. And support them financially. These things aren't free and they're not cheap to do it. So I encourage people to do that.
I've got a couple of lawyers that work under me, and we're always looking to expand.
They like to eat, these guys. That's the thing.
There's a lot of patriotic lawyers out there, but unfortunately, when you're in public interest law and you're dealing with these issues, it's not really lucrative. So whatever folks can do to help support that,
give them the website one more time. We'll put it up on the Crown as well.
It's citizensdefendingfreedom.com.
Citizensdefendingfreedom.com. It's a worthy cause. If you want to get in that fight, you can support it financially. It's a great place to invest. And John has never mentioned that to me whatsoever in conversation about that. I love John, and I wanted him to be able to come on here and talk because I think that people deserve to hear what he has to say on that. But I'm just saying that money helps.
It does
help.
I appreciate that.
And you've never mentioned that to me.
I'm always really bad at raising money. That's why
I'm horrible at it.
I'm like the worst. I
know how to sell something. I can sell anything, but raising money,
I don't like asking people for money.
I'm the same.
I didn't like doing that in Congress.
Yeah.
And that's why I didn't raise a lot of gas.
Yeah.
I mean, I tried, but you know how it is.
All right. Thank you, buddy. I want to encourage everybody, send me a message. And if you like this podcast, and I know you did, you're over there talking to the screen. Well, you could be talking to your computer if you go where podcasts are offered, and leave a rating and review. 5 stars is what we deserve. And let's talk a little bit. You can drop me an email, chad@thechadprathershow.com, and you can go to thechadprathershow.com and leave me your email address, because I would love to stay in touch with you. So if you want to find me out on the road and come have a little fun and not be quite so serious, worried about the world falling apart like Chicken Little, come find me. You can go to watchchad.com. Is where all the fun stuff is. And I'm all over the place, up and down the road. And yeah, God bless Texas. God bless America. And God bless all of us, man, because Lord knows we need it. John, I appreciate you. Hey, guys, I love you. God bless you. Thanks for tuning in. Tell your friends and family about the show so this thing continues to grow, and we'll see you next time. Bye.